Hey, everybody, and welcome back to The Real Deal with Empire. And this is the show, in fact, where we don't just talk about transactions, we do talk about transformation. I'm your host, Ali Fawaz, and we have another great one for you, bringing you insights into buying, selling, investing in real estate, even real estate stories, if you will. And today's guest is a man of many hats and badges. He's also a really good friend of mine. By day, he patrols the halls of 4 different schools as the first ever school resource officer for the Westwood School District. He keeps students safe, he builds relationships, and he's also proving that cops aren't just about enforcing rules. They're really about being part of the community. And when he's not in uniform, he's actually out closing deals as a realtor with Empire Realty Group. And he's using and leveraging not only his street smarts, his negotiation skills, and his 12 years of policing experience to help people find their dream homes. So folks, please give a big welcome to Officer Khalil Hojeij. Welcome.
Yeah, Ali, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course, thank you for carving out some time. We know that you're a busy person, so the fact that you're able to carve out a little bit of time to join us here on the podcast, we really appreciate you.
My pleasure.
So let's start with the obvious. You've got 2 high-pressure jobs. 1 minute, you're keeping schools safe, and then the next, you're helping clients close on their dream homes. How do you balance it all?
Well, Ali, for me, I'm kind of lucky to be in this position as a school resource officer. As working for the schools, we all know schools are from 7 to 4 o'clock, and you have the weekends off.
Yep.
Then after 4 o'clock, you're free to do whatever you want. And then you're free on the weekends. So it works out perfect for me that most people that are looking for houses are also working the same hours that I'm working. So they're usually available when I'm available. So that helps out a lot.
That does work out. It sounds like you're able to thread the needle just right to make the timing work out. That is good. Let's take it back a little bit. Let's rewind. What made you actually want to become a police officer in the first place? Was there a defining moment?
Well, Ali, in high school, I still didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, as most people don't. Yes, So we had a career day, and there was things that you can pick from. I picked law enforcement. I had a little bit of interest. I always liked how police officers looked with the gear, the gun, the badge, the handcuffs.
Yep.
So I picked that. I did an interview for it, a mock interview, and I really liked that. Moving forward, when I got to college, one of the electives that I picked was criminal justice.
Mm.
And once I entered that class, I loved the teacher, Mr. O. I'll never forget, Mr. Orlowski. I'll never forget his name. And going through that class, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I mean, he laid it out for me. I was so interested in law enforcement. I was so interested in law and the amendments and everything else that they teach you in that class. So that's when my passion began for law enforcement.
I love that. I think passion is a key word there. I think when you're passionate about something, it's not only a driver to get into it, but then I think it carries you through your career as well. You spent 12 years patrolling before moving into your current role as the first ever school resource officer. What pushed you to make that switch?
Well, being on patrol, you're responding to call, and you're not spending really much time with the person that's calling you. And usually when they're calling you, they're not calling you to invite you to a birthday party. They're calling you is because they have no other option. Something bad is really happening to them.
Yeah.
So when you're in patrol and you're responding to that, you really don't get to know people on their good days. You only meet them on their bad days. So after 10 years of that, I wanted a little bit of change. I wanted more community engagement, and I thought the school resource officer would be the best option for me. I have kids. I've coached in the past. I love mentoring these kids, and that's how I got into this role as a school resource officer.
That's interesting. You really bring up or at least you highlighted a point that I've never really thought about in the past, but. Yeah, I guess when you get called, usually it's to an event that is usually a strenuous situation, people under duress, stress, maybe an argument, fighting, it's usually not the best of situations. So
Correct.
I can see how that could take its toll. That is interesting.
Yeah. Now, being in the school,
Yeah.
you're there regardless.
Yep.
So you get to see the good stuff too. You're not only seeing the bad things.
Nice. That is good. So now, be honest, if you can, what's tougher, dealing with school students or dealing with the stubborn home buyers?
Honestly, I think probably stubborn home buyers. That those, as you know, in real estate, you can spend a lot of time and effort into a stubborn buyer, and you're talking about months,
Yeah.
a lot of resources, and at the end of the day, you get nothing out of it.
Right.
So that's a lot harder than with the law enforcement stuff. You can always work a way of doing it.
Now, when you're in a position like that, where you're working with a client that maybe is really set on their ways on something, you are the subject matter expert, right? When you're sitting there, what do you usually do to navigate that kind of a situation with a client that maybe isn't looking at the full spectrum of things? Like, how do you handle somebody that is stuck on a way?
So you have to learn to adapt into people's personalities. Just like in law enforcement, when you respond, you learn to adapt, and you learn very quick to see what's going to make this person happy and solve their situation. So it's kind of similar with real estate. You have to adapt, figure them out, and see exactly. There has to be a solution to something. There always has to be some kind of solution.
Yeah.
So taking my experience in law enforcement and then applying that to real estate helps me a lot, because I learned how to adapt really quick and solve a situation, because we're solving situations every day, all day.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely see how that translates. Kids are hilarious. What's the most fun? Well, what's the most funny or maybe most unexpected thing that you've encountered with a student? I don't know if you can share that much. Maybe you can.
Yeah,
vague.
I mean, students and minors and juveniles have a lot of privacy, so there's not much I can share. But there has been a lot of funny things, a lot of unexpected things that they do. Something just happened this week that I can't share with you, and it's really it's funny, but it's not. But I mean, yeah, you got the kids always asking if they can borrow my taser to go tase the teacher. They ask me for my handcuffs so they can go handcuff the principal.
Which I'm sure you offer those things up right away.
Yeah, no, no, we can't. Obviously we have fun with it. We joke around and we make the best out of the situations. But yeah, we deal with a lot of great students.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you're not just there as the cop in the building. You're also a mentor. You're a guide. You're part of the school's family, right?
Yes.
How much or how have you built the trust with the students, the faculty, and the teachers?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, Ali. So the other districts have had school resource officers for years and years and years. Westwood has never had a school resource officer. Mm-hmm. So I was going to be the first one to be their school resource officer. So I knew I had to go in there with a different angle. Because the first day that I walked in there, people were like, what happened? They thought a crime happened. Why is there
police officer?
Why is this officer? Yeah, why is this officer walking in our building? Why is he, going from here to here, talking to all these people? So yeah, I mean, a lot of people had a lot of questions and had a lot of suspicion of why I was there. So I had to kind of sit back, day by day, and introduce myself little by little, because everybody thought there was something going on. Mm-hmm. And as time went by and they started seeing me every day, the presence of you being there and seeing you and getting comfortable with seeing you there, they started to approach me little by little. And I made sure that I didn't just jump in there and say, hey, I'm a great guy, come talk to me. So, they were like, why is this guy here? So I took a patient approach, and day by day, they started seeing me in the district. They started seeing me at their brother's school, their sister's school. Parents started seeing me at high school, middle school, the elementary school, because most families have more than one child, so they'll see you in all the different schools, and they got comfortable with me. Being in a parking lot, arrival, dismissal. Those are probably the most stressful parts for parents of bringing their kids in and picking them up.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, it comes, it's within 5 to 10 minutes. Everybody wants to pick up their kid or drop off their kid and get to work or get to where they need to be, go pick up another student from a different school. So if it was raining, it was snowing, if it was sunshine, they saw me in the parking lot, navigating the parking lot, making sure it's safe for the kids and for them to get in and out and come in safely and leave safely.
Yeah.
So as time went by, they just got used to me, and I got to meet a lot of people.
Nice. That is nice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot now. And maybe you can't answer this. I don't know. But what's the craziest, most intense situation you had to deal with when you were at one of the schools?
As a school resource officer or as a law enforcement? Ooh.
Both.
Well, for the schools, the most intense you're ever going to get is when there's a school threat. Yeah. Because, the nature of the threat and what people have seen in the past. And I don't even want to talk about it because I don't want it to happen. I don't want to manifest any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, when there's somebody threatens the school that they're going to harm students in the school or harm a teacher, they make a social media post that they're going to do that. Yeah. Those are the most intense. There was days where I'm up until 3:00 in the morning, making sure that we use all the resources to make sure that the threat was not going to happen. Not going to come to life. So those are the most intense is school threats.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense. That would I'd say that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
What about outside of the school? Just regular policing.
So any officer can tell you that most officers in big cities can tell you that there's a lot of intense moments where there's a shooting, there's a homicide, somebody got robbed, carjacking. There's a lot of those things that a lot of officers go through that. Officer involved shootings, stuff like that. My thing that I remember most, and this is a funny thing, it was when I started off in law enforcement. I started off in Phoenix, Arizona. That's the 5th largest city in the country, so that's a busy city. And it was like my 2nd month on the job, being a solo officer without training, after all the training and all that. And I remember this because I was brand new, because I really had no experience, know what was going on. And we responded to, in Phoenix, in the area I worked, it was a high drug area. So I responded to a call of a elderly female doing some crazy stuff. Okay. And when I got there, she was fully undressed. Yes. Okay. And this was a really elderly female.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I didn't know what to do. Like, what do I do in this situation? I'm brand new. So we had blankets, in our car. So I grabbed the blanket and I'm trying to cover her. She's running and I'm running after her and everybody's laughing at me. And
You're chasing this naked lady down the streets with a blanket.
Yeah. Middle of the night.
I can picture this.
Yeah. Middle of the night. And then, the rest of your team is just sitting back like, what is he doing?
And they're enjoying watching.
There's other stuff, but that's the most thing that I remember because I was so new and I was like, what am I doing? That's when you start thinking like, did I pick the right profession?
Okay. That was actually a good one. I got to admit. So if you had to trade places with one of the teachers for a day, which class would you actually teach and why?
Ooh. Wow. So one of my, and I don't want other teachers to think that I don't like them.
He doesn't like you guys.
But one of my favorite teachers is Miss Johnson. She teaches 1st grade. We talk all the time. She's going to retire. This is her last year. She's going to retire. And I always go to her class. I always gravitate to her 1st graders. They're so innocent.
Yeah.
And you walk in there and they just run and they hug you and they want you to talk to them. They want to ask you a million questions. So it would probably be 1st grade. I would like to teach her class and give her a day off.
That's actually pretty precious.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
That is. Okay, let's talk real estate. How do you go from patrolling the streets to helping people find their dream homes? How did you find that transition or get into that?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I wanted to go into also real estate. I had law enforcement in my head, and I also wanted to do real estate. And I took the test, and I failed it. And then throughout the years, it never really left my mind. Like, I don't like failing on anything. I was young. I was like 18 years old. I didn't study for the test or anything like that. So as I got older, I was like, man, I failed that test. I need to pass it.
You need to redeem yourself.
I need to redeem myself.
Yeah.
So about 10 years ago, out of nowhere, I just started taking the class and took the test, passed it the first time. It was a lot more easier. I was more experienced in life. And I always was intrigued with real estate. I think you can do so much with real estate. It's all on the merit. It's like the harder you work, the more money you're going to make.
Yeah.
So there's no ceiling to it. And I was intrigued by that,
That's a true story.
And then eventually one day when I can't be a police officer, I want to do something else, and that perfect. I can be old, young, and there's no really age limit to it.
Yeah. I feel like being a cop gives you an edge in real estate. You're trained to deal with people, to negotiate under pressure, to de-escalate situations and conflicts. What skills from law enforcement do you find yourself using the most in those kind of situations and in deals?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much you answered.
Yeah, I guess I did.
You answered the question. Yeah. Negotiating. I mean, obviously in law enforcement, there's so much negotiating because we get called to a lot of civil stuff and there's no criminal element to it. We really can't do anything about it because it's civil matter, what we call civil matter. Yeah. But you don't want to just walk away from it and let the people fight it out because eventually it's going to turn criminal, right? So you learn to negotiate, like you go into a house, two tenants live in the same house, they're going at it, and one of them wants to leave. Like, hey, I'm going to take that TV. Well, that's my TV. It's your you know what I mean? So It's none of our business. It's not criminal at all. It's all civil, but we negotiate with them. We try to figure out a way to make them both happy and go their separate ways. So negotiation, being able to adapt to any kind of situation that goes, just things like that. Help out big time.
So you probably know the city more than most people. Has your background in law enforcement helped you guide clients and where to buy and what to watch out for and things like that?
Yeah, I think I do have a little bit of advantage in that because I know all the school districts, not only in Dearborn Heights, also in Dearborn because I did work in Dearborn and law enforcement, and I live in Dearborn. So yeah, I mean, I can. It depending what people want, I can tell them exactly where to go because I know pretty much every neighborhood in both those two cities where most of my clients wanted to buy. Yeah,
or that's where they're going to buy usually. Okay. Now on the real estate side, what's the most ridiculous thing or outlandish request that a home buyer or seller has asked for?
So one of my favorite clients, I love these clients. I want to call them family. We're not related, but I want to call them family because they're more of a family to me. They wanted a farm, okay, but they don't want to be out away from this area. Yeah. So they wanted a farm within a city.
Okay.
And I thought that was, and we were able to actually, it is. And there's a will, there's a way, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we ended up finding with my team, of course, Empire is a big team, a house in a city not far from here that has a farm. They got horses, they have chickens, they have sheep, they have monkeys.
They have monkeys.
They have monkeys, 2 monkeys.
Interesting.
Yeah. That was one of the, you never know. You never know. You never know. You never know. And you can probably deliver it. As long as there's a will, there's a way.
Which is harder, chasing a suspect or chasing down a buyer who refuses to commit?
Ooh, probably chasing down a buyer. Chasing down a buyer. Like I think I said it earlier. You commit a lot of time and resources to find somebody a house. I mean, you can show somebody like 50 houses and like, oh, I'm good. So I think that's a tougher task than chasing down a criminal because when you're actually chasing down a criminal, you can get on the radio, say, hey, he ran this way, and you can get some help. Yeah. In real estate, your help is trying to get that buyer to use them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're pretty much on your own, because there's so many people that are going to try to get that buyer for themselves to make the commission, compared to law enforcement. Suspects running away, you call for help.
Right.
Everybody's going to help you. We're a big team. It's a great family. It's a great way for law enforcement to be a family that way.
Nice. Yeah. That is nice. What about first-time home buyers? What's the number one mistake you often find that first-time home buyer falling into? What are the pitfalls there usually?
They're so excited to buy a house that they want to settle. There's no patience.
Oh, they want to settle for whatever they see.
I want a house and I want it now. And they just, I want this house, so they're just, I don't want to say not patient enough to actually look more.
Right.
Than
see what other options they
have,
or to do the due diligence of figuring out, is this really checking all the boxes for you?
Yeah.
You said that you have all these requirements.
Mm-hmm.
I just showed you one house and you just said yes to it, but it's missing 5 requirements out of 10 that you asked for.
Yes. And then another thing is, they say I have a budget of $200,000.
Okay.
And they start sending you Zillow ads for like $350,000.
Yes. Okay.
It's like,
their budget suddenly starts creeping up.
Yes. And, you have to bring them back down to earth. They're like, hey, look, you're only approved for this much. If you want to get more approved for, and this is what you told me that your budget is. If you want to change it, we can change it. But, they think that the $350,000 house, they're going to make an offer of $200,000 and they're going to get it. So,
yeah. So I believe that you are proof that you can be successful at real estate with a demanding full-time job at the same time. Yeah. What advice would you give to those out there who are contemplating getting into real estate, knowing that, they have a full-time job currently? What advice would you give them? Like
for me, I don't want to feel that I'm tied down to one job, and if I lose that job, I'm done. You know what I mean? That I always have something to fall back on, and it was my real estate. I'm only doing it part-time. And I choose, you can choose in real estate, you can choose your clients, and I would advise you, if you have a second job, full-time job, and you're doing real estate, be picky on who you bring in as your clients. So they understand your situation. But it's just time management. I also have a family. I got 4 kids, I coach, I watch the sports. You just it's all about time management and effort,
Yeah, I'd imagine time management is a big piece to that, keeping a calendar organized.
Absolutely, and then be picky on your clients in real estate, because that's I had to learn that, the hard way. Some people are there just to waste your time. There's certain things that, and having a good mentor in real estate, which I did, which I became successful when Ali Fawaz, the guy that, broker for Empire, I followed his structure, and, he's like, oh, this is what you got to do. This is how you got to do it. And, you have a good mentor, so you can be successful.
I love that. Khalil, this has been an incredible conversation, whether it's keeping kids safe or helping families find the perfect home that they've been looking for whether it's months or years. You are really proof that real impact happens when you focus on people and not just the process. Here at Empire, we always say it's not just about the transaction, it's about transformation. And you, my friend, really embody that as a perfect example. Before we wrap up, though, I do want to let everybody know, if you're looking for a top-tier real estate agent, this is your man right here. Reach out. He'll help you out. He'll find you that perfect home. Also, everyone who's listening, if you love this episode, please, as always, remember to like the episode, follow us, leave us a review. You can find the podcasts on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and on Spotify, or wherever else you find your podcasts. Until next week, I appreciate you guys. And Khalil, appreciate you being on the show again.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's always good to talk to you.
See you guys.